Hi, Randy. Good morning. Welcome to our Facebook Live podcast on trailblazing entrepreneurs.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
Wala pa yung ano natin. Wala pa yung special guest natin.
Uh, so I need
Ay,
your
ganda
help.
ng ano mo ah.
I need your help to make sure that we record this time.
Tama po, sir. Oh. Sometimes kasi nakikiread away na tayo. Hindi natin na ano yun, maisip pa yung ano, mga maliliit na bagay na
Uh-huh.
kaligtaan. Sige.
Oh, Garrett is
Anong
here.
oras ah? Oh, nice.
Hello, Garrett.
There we go. Sorry about that. I was on mute and my video was off. That's weird.
How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. Probably going to turn off my background just because I'm sure that messes everything up, right?
Yeah. Are you home?
Yeah, I am home. I work. My office is actually here at home, so it makes things way nice.
Yeah.
So,
It's great that we can do, well, of course, it's nice to have a bigger house where you can have different offices or compartmentalize your roles in life.
yeah, no, it works out. It works out good. But anyway, I'll put that over there. I'm just looking on there. I can see all sorts of stuff on my chair. There we go. And anyway, so hopefully you can see me okay.
You're good.
Clear. Okay, good.
Wow.
So,
I like your shelf. Huh?
thanks. Yeah, I've got. I was going to say some good books, picture of the family, a couple spots, and then of course the jeepney right there. And then I'm a Star Wars fan, so there's that right there.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm a fan as well of the Jedis.
Good, I love it. Yeah, I love it. My kids they've grown up Star Wars fans as well, so it's fun. It's way fun.
Yeah.
So, and I noticed Randy Pino.
Randy Pino. He is based in Cebu.
Hey, Randy.
Hi, Garrett.
How you doing?
Nice meeting you.
You too.
I'm
Randy
good.
is based in Cebu.
And I will be your technical guy for today.
Nice. All right.
He's going to help us out. Make sure that we press the right buttons. I need to make sure that you are. I haven't made you a co-host, I guess, Randy. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there. I think you can get started.
Perfect.
All right. So, well, we're glad that you're here. Finally, we can
Let me record.
make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, when were you in the Philippines again?
Most recently, I was there in November,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, right there in Manila, and then
Palawan.
in Palawan. Yeah,
Beautiful Palawan.
Oh man, I had never been before, and it was just so pretty. Well, the Philippines is pretty; it's super pretty anyway. And then Palawan was just like, I call it the Hawaii of Hawaii. Here in the United States, people, when they think of paradise, they think of Hawaii, and I think all of the Philippines looks like paradise. And then Palawan was just had that crown. It was that crown jewel.
Well, I hope you'll get to visit some of the islands in Mindanao soon. So
yeah, I'm planning.
I hope you feel safer to do that.
I'm planning on it in June, so that'll be great. Go to Luzon, and then we're going to go to Visayas, and then we'll go to Davao City in June. That's the plan.
All right. Well, we're excited to maybe be a part of your trip soon.
Do it. Let's do it. That'd be great.
Okay, so let's get started. So good morning and welcome to our viewers and listeners. Welcome to our Trailblazing podcast. So we do this twice a month, one with a local entrepreneur and another with a foreign entrepreneur. So we can have a global perspective as well, no? And learn from different parts of the world, know what they're doing. So hopefully this podcast will bring you inspiration and learning on business principles and tools that can help you start and grow your business. So the Academy for Creating Enterprise is a non-stock, non-profit organization with a mission to ignite entrepreneurship in faith-driven people. We use entrepreneurship development as a model, a development model that helps people find their business opportunities, act to start and generate income-generating activities, then grow that to expand and prosper. So of course, the end in mind is not just to accumulate wealth, but to use that wealth to bless others. And then we support our members and by strengthening the chapters in different parts of the country. And these chapters in turn help their members continue learning, helping each other solve business problems, and network to help others become self-reliant. So hello again, Garrett. Thank you for making time for this podcast. And
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
many are excited to listen and learn. Of course, this podcast will be viewed over several times. So we're on Facebook Live right now, and then we'll be uploading this to our YouTube channel so that people can go back to it and reminisce and gain nuggets of wisdom from our conversation. So Garrett has been an entrepreneur since he was 9 years old. Amazing. And so he brings a lot of knowledge, a wealth of wisdom to our episode today. So he started and grew not just his own businesses, not just one business, but several businesses, and help others grow their businesses as well. So to our viewers, in case you have questions, you can type in your questions, and we will read them. And if we have time, we will ask Garrett to respond to them. So Garrett, I will give you time now to give us a little bit more introduction about yourself.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I thank you again, Philip, for having me. I love talking about entrepreneurship, and anyone that's looking to start a business, has an idea, maybe they want to innovate or disrupt the market. But kind of for me, it kind of goes back to when I was about 9 years old. I was trying to figure out a way in which to kind of save money, but to save money, you've got to be making money. And so I was like trying to decide on what I wanted to do. And fortunately for me, I had an uncle who was a window cleaner, and that's what he did. He just did windows for houses and commercial buildings and so forth. And I saw him doing it. I thought, wow, that looks kind of fun. And one day he said, hey, yeah, would you like to come with me? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And I started learning this trade with him that I started getting really good at it, I found. And I started knocking on doors and asking neighbors and individuals in the community if I could wash their windows. And then I started knocking on the doors of businesses, asking if I could do their windows as well. And it was funny because they have a hard time saying no to a 9-year-old that looks like he knows what he's doing, right? I had all the tools and I'm there and I'm giving them a great price. And then they see that this little kid is able to do the windows really well. And so then I started getting repeat business with them to the point where when I was about 12 years old, I had about 60 clients that I was regularly doing their windows. And so that helped me to kind of save up a good amount of money and for my needs and wants. And it worked out great. Started to kind of invest in some stocks and different things like that at a young age. Unfortunately, I wasn't of the age where I could actually have investing accounts, and I had to lean on my dad to do some of those things. But it was my first real opportunity with a business, and years later, like I said, when I was about 12, my parents went through a divorce, and I was forced to sell my business. And I was able to sell it to a man in his 30s And that was my first exit, as I always joke about in business.
So you've learned to start and sell businesses at
Yeah.
a very young age.
Yeah, that was my first before I was a teenager. That was, that it just happened the way it did.
Wow. So I guess I'm curious also, how do you value a business like that? So when you sell a business, how did you determine how much you should sell it for?
At the time,
At such a young age,
Yeah.
okay.
At the time, I had no real idea what the company was worth. And so I leaned on my uncle for that because he had sold different components of his business in the past. And then he'd rebuild it and then he'd sell it again. And that's what he would do. And he said the multiple was dependent on how many times you had actually done those clients their windows on a regular basis. So if you've done their windows every quarter for the last 3 years, 4 years, and so forth, then that multiplier might be 3 times or 5 times, for example, or maybe 4 times. And so he helped me ascertain what that looked like. Because there were some clients that I did their windows, they were a commercial storefront, and I would do their windows every week. And then there was others that would have me do their windows once a month or once a quarter. And so they all had a different rate. And so we added all that up and I presented a number, and I think the number was very attractive, and they said yes. And so that's kind of how that went.
Wow, it's amazing how you can be surrounded by the wealth of wisdom that you had access to.
Thank goodness, because otherwise I would have given it away probably far too cheap, just because I needed to sell it because there was urgency there. And so yeah, it was great to be able to sell it and move on from that. And then I moved to a completely different part of California here in the United States, and had to redo it again and start from scratch and build something up again. And so I did that too. So, but yeah.
So were you able to transition your business to California and start a window cleaning business as well? Or did you get into another? So what did you get into once you got into California? How did your journey on entrepreneurship continue?
Yeah. So, as I was growing up, my teenage years, I had started up another window cleaning business in another part of California. And as you know, California is kind of like the Philippines in terms of length and distance from north to south. Actually, the Philippines is a little bit bigger from north to south than California. But California is kind of like taking the top of Visayas all the way down to Mindanao, basically, but removing Luzon. And California's a big state. So moving from one part of California to another, I was able to kind of take the skills and the things that I learned and duplicate them, and then just kind of create an even better business. But I was in high school at the time, so I didn't have as much time as I used to have when I was in elementary school. And so I didn't have as much time to work on that. So I built a business. I had some great revenue that would come in when I was able to work, but it was more along the lines of having that extra income as just having another job, I guess you could say, from being a full-time student. But yeah, I mean, that's how I got my kind of first start, if you will. And then I would always be selling stuff on the side sometimes. I was always looking for a deal. Sometimes I would buy a car and then I'd sell it. The secret is always in the buy, never in the sell. If you can buy right, you can always sell it for more. And so that was kind of my goal. And I got that. I learned that from my dad, who had bought and sold a lot of cars growing up. But yeah, I was saving for a mission for my church. I was going to go away for 2 years, and I wanted to figure out a way in which I could save for that so that I could pay my own way. And that is the way I was able to do it. And so I was a missionary in Mexico for 2 years for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and had a great experience there, and just fell in love with Latin America. And so, to this day, I love Latin America, but I always feel like the Philippines is the Mexico of Asia. And I love the Philippines. I think I love the Philippines more than I love Mexico, in fact, because I always say the Philippines is the country of smiles. Everyone's always smiling and happy, and I just love that. And everyone, for the most part, speaks amazing English. And my Spanish is not as good as it was 25 years ago when I was speaking it in Mexico. So it helps me that everyone speaks enough English in the Philippines that it's very comfortable.
Well, we've been exposed to so many cultures, and of course, the Americans were here for several decades,
Yeah.
influencing both culture and language. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. Of course, we love you guys. You've been very helpful to the country, of course, in so many ways. Of course. So, I can hear principles there that we teach our people, like buying low, selling high, and I saw that as I heard that from you. Well, we'd like to shift a little bit to, going back to your motivation as you started these businesses. Because one of the things that we would like to have in this podcast is how you find fulfillment, or how do you fulfill your mission in life through entrepreneurship. So can you tell us about how your motivation as an entrepreneur starting from 9, how it evolved?
Yeah.
You started businesses, share with us how your desire, your drive, what's driving you to start all these businesses.
Yeah.
That change over time.
No, thanks for that. What's interesting is everything builds. I feel like for me, one experience builds on another. And as time goes on, and hence the reason why we talk about knowledge and we talk about wisdom, right? Mm-hmm. It's having that knowledge and then putting it into practical experience, and it becomes wisdom, right? And, part of it is you don't know what you don't know. And so you sometimes you've got to go out and explore and figure some of these things out. And so after my mission in Mexico, I got home, I got married, and one day I was working out at the gym, leaving the gym, and I'd always crave ice cream. And I thought, you know what? Everything I just did in the gym is going to be for naught, because if I go and I eat ice cream right now, I want to get stronger and look better and if I eat ice cream, it's going to be the opposite, right? And I thought, why can't ice cream be healthy? And why isn't there anything in America that reflects healthy ice cream? And there was nothing out on the market. And so I thought, how hard could it be? And that was the aha moment, the light bulb moment that I thought, there's got to be something there that I can create. And so we went, my business partner and I had mentioned this to him, and he loved the idea, and he says, let's do it. And so we ended up getting a soft serve machine from an auction, bought it, and then started experimenting with all sorts of different formulas. And most of them were absolutely disgusting. They were gross. And I liken it to Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb. He had to go through thousands of different tests in order to finally find the one that worked. And so that's kind of how it was with us, is we just kept trying and kept trying. And eventually people didn't spit the ice cream out on the floor. They said, wow, this is actually pretty good. And so then we got it into some frozen yogurt shops. And then after time, people started asking if we would put it into a pint. And that way they could take it home and put it into their freezers in their homes. And so then we put it into a pint, and the product was fat-free, it was gluten-free, lactose-free, diabetic friendly. It was 150 calories for the entire pint container. So you could eat the whole thing without feeling bad about it. It had 20 grams of whey protein and 8 grams of fiber. And it was all natural, clean ingredients, nothing artificial. And it tasted good, which was the most important part. And so we got it into one grocery store in America, then 100, then 1,000, then 10,000 grocery stores, and then eventually 18,000 grocery stores. And so there was Haagen-Dazs, which everyone has heard of. It was the number 1 in America. Number 2 was Ben & Jerry's. And then number 3 best-selling ice cream in America was my product called Arctic Zero. And so we sold a lot of it every single month nationwide, filling up trucks, in addition to the stores that had it, 18,000 grocery stores. And Nestle was distributing it to a network across the United States. Walmart, Target, Sam's Club, Costco, a lot of different stores in addition to the ones that we were in. And so, yeah, so we got our starting in one little store and then expanding it and then eventually exiting and selling it. And
Well,
so
we love ice cream, Garrett. And you just made everyone very eager to have ice cream at 10 in the morning.
yes. Hey, and that was the goal was, no matter what time of day, we used to always say it's the answer to your 10 o'clock sweet tooth. You can eat the whole pint guilt-free. And one of the things that we used to say was, what you eat in private shows in public.
Well, I'm gonna use that quote.
Absolutely. It's yours.
I'm curious though, when you had that aha moment, were you looking for a business idea? What were you doing at the time? Were you into business already at the time? What were you doing? How did you decide that, okay, I saw this and I'll go ahead with it and create a business out of it?
I was at a restaurant with my friend at lunch, and we were in a sandwich shop eating a sandwich, and there was an ice cream machine behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the ice cream machine, and I told him across the table, I said, why can't that stuff be healthy?
Mm-hmm.
I love it, and, always walking out of the gym, craving ice cream. Then I'm sitting down, having this conversation. How hard could it be? And that was the question that I asked myself. And that's when we started moving forward with the idea. And it was just kind of like, no one else is doing it. Why don't I give it a shot? And that's the number one, thing that you just got to look at is, okay, is anyone else doing it? And if there's not, there's an opportunity here most of the time because there's no competition. And now in America, there are so many ice cream brands that are doing exactly what we're doing. But the thing that we were lucky about is we were the first to do it. We disrupted the market, and we actually put the calorie count of the package on the front of the package to attract attention. And we're the first ones in America to put calorie counts on the front of a package. And so that was kind of an exciting innovation that we did. And that was the branding. To build brand equity, we did it with that calorie count front and center. And so now there's a lot of companies, most of them do the same thing now.
So, well, we teach our, the people who go through our programs, we teach them a lot about differentiation. So, and I think that's how you differentiated yourself. You were able to show them how much calorie this is, how healthy this product is. Garrett, what can you share to our viewers and listeners about opportunity? Because many of them are looking for opportunity. So, what has been helpful to you in finding opportunities, seeing that this is going to turn out to be, this has good potential?
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is if anyone's ever taken the Strength Finder test, I think that's really important. Strength Finder, it's been around for about 70 years, I think. They've done over like 100 million tests across the world. And it identifies the top strengths that each one of us possesses. And those are all in different rankings, depending on who we are. Just as unique as our fingerprints, we also are born and placed here on this earth with certain talents that are different from someone next to us. But if we all work together, we are able to accomplish amazing things. And I was just lucky. My number one strength of 34 strengths is ideation. So I have ideas all the time, nonstop. It's hard to turn my brain off at night. My wife drives her crazy. And so I kind of got lucky because it's just the ideas happen. For some people, they don't have that talent, or I should say that strength for ideas to just flow. So everyone, there's different ways in which someone can do that. Maybe they lean on someone that has great ideas and they're very good from a support standpoint, or maybe they can execute very well. Or at the same time, maybe they need some inspiration. So whether that's maybe reading an amazing book and drawing up some ideas and writing those down. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe that's a problem that they face themselves with on a regular basis, and they've got to figure out, okay, there's an answer to this problem. I don't see the solution anywhere. Why don't I come out with the solution and the answer to solve this problem? And they can ask themselves those types of questions, that introspection a little bit. But yeah, I mean, coming up with the ideas, it's sometimes exploring again, having conversations with friends and colleagues and just ask them, what is something that you don't like about this or that? And jotting that down and going, okay, is there a market for this? If I come up with an answer or a solution to this problem, we're all surrounded with people that sometimes complain about something. They're negative about something. Something bothers them. Well, if it's bothering them, chances are it's bothering a lot of people. It's like, how do you solve the problem of crazy traffic in Manila? Well, I'm sure everyone asks that question, right? The craziest traffic anywhere, I feel like, is in Manila, right? How do you solve that problem, right? Now, that's a big problem that has a lot of different answers to it. But, shrinking that down to something else more sizable, whether that's in ice cream or maybe it's in some other form of business or an idea or an invention. I had an idea once for pets to be able to bring pets on a bicycle. And I was talking to a buddy about it once, and he's like, he was telling me about this idea that he had, and I thought, wow, that's a great idea. Have you ever done anything about it? He's like, oh no. And I said, all right. Well, I started experimenting with designs and came up with a pet carrier that's aerodynamic, that your pet can go inside while you're riding a bike, or you can place it inside a car or a bus, and it's attached and it's safe for that pet. And I got 2 patents on it, a utility patent and a design patent on it here in the United States. And it's on my shelf. I have not done anything with it, but eventually I'll probably do something with it or license the patents to someone who does want to move forward with it. But again, it's those ideas flowing. What can you do with them? And sometimes it reminds me of the book. If anyone's ever read the book Essentialism, it's a great book talking about good, better, and best, basically. And just because everyone has good ideas and great ideas, but what are the best ideas that you have? And focus on those, because those are the ones that are going to move things forward. You can work on something and it's going to consume years of your time, or you can do something that is a great idea, it's just an amazing idea, and move forward with that instead, just making sure that you utilize your time correctly. But yeah, to answer your question though, everything was kind of been a stepping stone to what I basically do now.
How about bad ideas? Have you had bad ideas? They started, you got into it, you're inspired by it, and then eventually you found that, I don't think this is a good idea for a business.
Yes, there are some different ideas. Like I have the idea, and then I start going through the process and going, okay, what's the market look like? What are the barriers to entry to get this product in the hands of consumers? If it's a consumable product, maybe, you know what I mean? What is the product or the idea? And there's been a few times where I'd move forward with an idea and I'd start getting hit with the barriers. And some of the barriers were regulatory, where I would have to jump through a lot of legal hoops to do it. And anytime I have to get involved with lawyers and the law, and it's difficult and cumbersome, it actually destroys my excitement to move forward with it. So if there aren't barriers, and what's interesting is the state of California, they create so many barriers and obstacles for business owners. Most business owners are moving away from that state because their ideas are basically getting, they're getting pushed against. And so the key is being in an environment that is welcoming to businesses and ideas. And so I find if I'm in the right surroundings and I have an idea the chances of it proliferating and just doing really well increases dramatically.
Uh-huh. So I like the process that you're thinking. So you're saying that, okay, I have a good idea. It's not enough to just go ahead with it. There are other questions that you have to answer for yourself, right? So you evaluate that. Sometimes the timing or the situation, the location where you're at impacts the goodness, the greatness of the idea. So that's what I'm hearing. I also like that you shared, books. Every time I interview successful entrepreneurs, they talk about the books that influence them. Right? So you mentioned about Strength Finder, Essentialism. I'm sure, in our previous conversation, you also mentioned another book, which led you to, your business right now, right?
Yeah. The other book, two of my favorite books I've ever read. They're written by the author Clayton Christensen. Clayton Christensen was a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford. Then he was a Harvard MBA student, and then later on started some successful businesses. Was a family man, and raised very, very good kids. Had a very strong marriage, and he grew businesses, and he was one of the economics professors at Harvard University. Very, very smart guy. Wrote several books, two of which I read, and I just loved them. I fell in love with those books. One is called The Prosperity Paradox, and the other one is How Will You Measure Your Life? And both of those pivotal moments in my life to read those books. And I thought, you know what? How will I measure my life? And how can and then with the prosperity paradox, he shared some examples of doing significant things to uplift developing nations. And so he used the examples of Samsung and LG in South Korea and how they raised South Korea up from being one of the poorest nations in all of Asia to one of the wealthiest in just a matter of a few decades. Udo Noodles and what it did for the entire continent of Africa, so people weren't starving as much. How Bimbo Bakeries, for example, in Mexico lifted the infrastructure there as we know it, just by the bakery. And so I want to do something very similar to that. I wanted to have an idea that could lift as many individuals out of poverty and move them to the middle class. But I didn't want it to take a generation. I wanted to do it in 60 days or less for real quick impact that just instantly changes someone's lives. And one of the number one ways to do that is having a significant bump in what your earnings are each month. And so my goal was, how can we take someone's living wage and increase it 5 to 10 times in each month for them? So if they were just making the equivalent of $200 per month, which is just incredibly difficult, which a lot of individuals in the Philippines live off of as little as $200 a month. How do we get them to $1,000 or $2,000 a month and instantly change their lives? And so the same thing for Latin America. And so I wanted to move forward with an idea to employ members of the Philippine community, and as well as in Latin America, and help them lift where they stood. And so that's kind of what I set out to do.
60 days, huh? 60 days to make an impact.
Yes. I just don't like a lot of these nonprofit organizations. I applaud them for doing good, but they take way too long to do good. I don't want it to take a generation. I want to impact the children of the parents quickly and not a generation later. And so that's why I started a company. It's called KJ. It actually stands for the names of my kids, Kate, Ariana, Jack, Alexa, Ethan. And I found out later that 5-letter word, it's also, the domain was available, thank goodness. It means gift from God in Jamaican, which was perfect. And so that's kind of what we set out to do, was hiring members of like I said, the community in the Philippines and Latin America, and finding amazing clients here in the United States that would love to hire them, and they would hire them through our company. And so they are a member of the KJ team and the family, and they work 40 hours a week for one of our clients here in the United States. And the client pays us, and then from that, we pay not only a significantly larger sum of money than they've probably ever earned before in their life, but in addition, we provide, in the case of Latin America and the Philippines, MaxiCare Platinum, HMO, and dental to everyone on the team. And we give everyone a snack allowance, paid time off, paid maternity, paid paternity. We also have a new education incentive that we rolled out, so that we've got education for master's programs that we help with for members of the team. And then we have a clinical psychologist with a PhD on staff for mental health and emotional awareness for the team members. And it's 100% remote, so no one ever has to leave the comfort of their home. But where much is given, much is required. And so everyone on the team has a bachelor's degree as a minimum. And then they have to have experience in their field. Maybe it's accounting, a full stack developer, maybe they're program management, maybe they're a data analyst, maybe they're a lawyer, a mechanical engineer, a content writer, an Amazon e-commerce expert. So we've got over 100, almost 120 employees now. I should say team members. I hate using the word employee. Team members on our team that are doing amazing things for some of the clients here in the United States. And rather than hiring an American that's going to complain and demand a lot of money and all these benefits, I find that those in the Philippines and in Latin America and surrounding areas are more than grateful for an opportunity to change their stars, to use a quote from a movie that I love. And so that's what I do. That's what gets me excited every single day. Meeting individuals where they're buying their first car, they're buying their first house for the first time.
Well, as I mentioned before, I think our numbers will be busy with questions asking for where can we apply? How can we get into KJ? So how can they find KJ if they're interested to present themselves and join your organization?
Yeah, so they would just need to send an email to one of our hiring directors. They're the directors of talent acquisition. We've got one in Latin America, and then we've also got one in there in the Philippines as well. But the best way to do it is to send an email to hire, HIRE, at kj.com. And KJ is spelled KAJAE.com. Kate, Ariana, Jack, Alexa, Ethan.
Everything seems to be so providential, right? That
My wife and I always said it would be so great to come up with a name using our kids' first letters of their names. And so scrambled it up. That's what worked, and that's what was available, and made it happen.
And indeed, it's a gift from God, right? You're gifting the world.
Yes,
that's wonderful opportunities.
That's the goal, and it's actually a catalyst for the things that we want to do next. And my plan, after about 3 years, and we started the company almost 2 years ago. This July, it'll be 2 years, so we're still fairly recent. But the goal is at the 3-year mark is to do something that I had learned in the prosperity paradox. And what I wanted to do was find outstanding members of the team that have brilliance and experience and the drive to start their own businesses and to be able to invest in their idea. So basically helping them become the next Samsung or LG in the Philippines, helping someone become the next Bimbo Bakeries of Mexico. You know, they all need to start somewhere. And sometimes the hardest thing to get an idea off the ground is the funding. And so we would be able to put the capital into these. And I'm not talking small amounts like $1,000 or something, but like 100, $200,000, $300,000 to really get these businesses going. Because the goal is they're able to then create 100, 500, 1,000 jobs that lift everyone in that area. So if you can lift an individual, you're doing great. If you can lift that individual and their family, even better. Their community, their province, their country. And so that's the goal, one at a time, is to help them lift where they stand.
Wow. If we can replicate Garrett blood, that will just be awesome, Same heart and mind, same brilliant mind, same imagination, same drive, same compassion. Wow. I think
nice
the world will be a much, much better place.
Oh man, that's nice of you to say.
Thank you, Garrett.
I love it. Like, I'll be sitting on an interview with someone from the team or someone that's going to be a prospective member of the team. And they tell me about the hard struggles and difficulties that they've had growing up in the slums in Manila, for example, and how difficult that is, and escaping that and helping them excel and move forward and changing the trajectory of their life. And so I love that. It's one of my favorite things. I'm not a morning person, but I will wake up early when I get to meet members and prospective members of the team.
That's good. Oh, what's that? Someone called, sorry. Anyway, well, I think we need to, I've been inspired personally. I'm sure many of our viewers are inspired with your motives, your drive, as I mentioned earlier, as we talked about it, how you've moved from a 9-year-old just with the goal of saving money to starting a business to save for your mission, and now accumulating all these resources, being willing to go through all these challenges to start businesses with the end in mind of alleviating poverty.
Yeah.
And across the world.
Yeah.
Different parts of the world, right? So that's amazing. So and I hope our listeners are inspired by that this is what entrepreneurship can do, that you can really enact the greatest desires of your heart, especially those things perhaps that God would really want you to do with your talents and abilities. So thank you, Garrett, for bringing us that. So I want to shift now a little bit because we have businesses that are on the growth path and they're encountering challenges. And what's amazing with your experience is you've done it, from zero to being number 3 in the ice cream business in a huge market like the US, very competitive, and now growing an outsourcing business across the world. So we'd like to find out, what principles can you suggest, based from your experience about growing a business? So what has helped you?
I think there's a couple of things. One of those is embracing difficult things. I think far too often, the moment that it gets hard, people quit and they're like, oh, that's just too hard. I want to go do what's comfortable. And and we know this, how many books say this, that there's no growth in the comfort zone, right? You have to do something uncomfortable, and it's challenging most of the time. But I always say, in order to be successful, we have to be comfortable. It sounds funny to say that, doing and looking for hard things. And if we can do hard things, the small things become much easier. But the growth from doing these hard things and going through adversity is significant. Like my life growing up, I had very hard things. Most people don't know this, but I was at one point in my life, I came from a very wealthy family and we lost it all. And I became super poor, where we had to rely on the government for assistance. That's how poor we became. And I think at that moment is where I learned how to become scrappy, innovative, and I learned a work ethic from that to support my family. I was supporting my mom and my two sisters and my brother, basically. And so that is something that I was forced. It was forced upon me, and I had to kind of rise to that occasion. I would have preferred to be a kid growing up and doing some fun things, but I wasn't afforded that. But I think so. I think doing hard things is one of the major ones that they have to be okay with doing, right? Being uncomfortable. Two is something that you can control, is who you choose to do business with. A business partner should be someone that can help augment what you're doing. It's one of those things that you can a lot of times choose. I've had business partners that were crooks, dishonest, greedy, like to maneuver. You've seen enough movies where you have a slimy business partner that steals your company away, for example. I've had those types of business partners. And so I always say, I have a rule. You should have, one of the number one things is you should have like familial circumstances. Which basically means if you're single, then you can probably do business with someone as a business partner that's single. But if you're married and you have kids, having a business partner who is single that doesn't know what it's like to have children, or a spouse, is going to be a recipe for disaster, because they don't understand that your family is more important than the business. They don't understand that, because all they know is let's make money type of mentality. So it's very important that you have someone that I call equally yoked. If anyone's familiar with that term, of oxen that used to pull wagons across the plains in the United States, a yoke was placed over the necks of oxen, these animals, and they could pull a wagon. And they were equally yoked because they would pull at the same time, as opposed to one moving in front of the other. And so it's kind of like life. If you marry someone that's not equally yoked with you, one's going to pull this direction, one's going to pull this direction. And so same thing with a business partner. You want to make sure that you're equally yoked to move forward together.
So be comfortable with hard things, and working with people that you can be equally yoked with.
That's exactly it. And if there was one other one that I'd say, we always hear it, and I don't mean for it to be cliche about, sticking with it, hang in there, they always say. But honestly, when you're about to quit is right when there's that spark that's going to take you over the top. It's almost at that point where you're about to quit that you're there. And I feel like it's that way on purpose. I don't know if it's so you have an amazing story to tell, or the fact that majority of those instances have success in them once you just stick it out long enough.
And how did that happen with your ice cream business? When was the point when, okay, are we going to push through with this? Should we see this to its end, or should we end it now?
So it's funny because it was kind of like, it was one of those experiences that we read about in the history books. Like the Greeks, they would go to conquer a land and a people, and they would burn the ships, and they were committed to taking the land as their own, basically, because they weren't going to be able to get in the ships and sail back. So they knew there was no chance of that happening. We ordered a shipment of 200,000 empty containers that we were going to fill with ice cream. It represented a big financial commitment. And we had an entire warehouse full of empty cups. And I remember looking at my business partner, and we're looking at this stack of cups all the way to the ceiling, probably 10 meters up to the ceiling. And it was just a huge building. And we're looking around, and we went, looks like we're going to be filling containers. Let's go. And we started filling pints one at a time and then introducing them into stores. And a lot of stores said no, but a lot of stores said yes. And once we got into a couple of yeses, more of the stores that said no started to say yes. And so it was just something that we could see. We started with 30 stores, 30 commitments to bring in the product, and then 80, then 100, then 300, then 800. Then a new store chain that had over 1,000 stores said yes. And so little by little, those numbers started to go up. But yeah, to your answer to your question, when we ordered 200,000 pints, that represented, I can't remember how much money it was, but it was a lot. I think it was like, for us, for me, I was a young father with kids. My business partner didn't have any kids. And so he was comfortable. But for me, that represented, it was about $25,000 for just pints, empty pints with no product in them. And now we had to go out and sell them on top of it. So that's basically the moment.
I wonder what your wife was saying. Did she know what you were doing?
She did. She knew she was married to an entrepreneur. She knew that it was high risk but high reward at the same time. If you're comfortable, the chances for you to make a change for you and your family are down here. And there's safety in that, but you're never going to grow. And so she knew that. She knew who she married.
That's cool. Is there an age that you would recommend, for someone to get into this, risky stuff? Like how old were you when you were getting into this, when you got into the ice cream business?
Let's see. So after my mission, I got home and I was a financial advisor, working with two major banks, American Express, Ameriprise, and Bank of America Investment Services on Wall Street, basically. And so I was a financial advisor. I had gotten fairly good with numbers. And then I decided rather quickly that I hated it. It's all sorts of paperwork. I'm dealing with a lot of people that are dishonest. And I said, I just that's not for me. And and then around the same time, I started working with my buddy, and we became business partners later. And that's when I had that idea. I was about 20. I had the idea when I was 23. And then I was 23. And then we really started getting the product into stores. We had soft serve. We were in soft serve frozen yogurt shops for a number of years. And then I'd say it was probably about 4 or 5 years after that. So I was probably around 26, 27 when we started really moving forward with the product and actually putting it into grocery stores. And so that was basically in 2008, I would say. So that's, what is that, 20? Actually, I was closer to 30, I guess. And so, yeah, it's kind of how we did that. And we scaled rather quickly because it was the first of its kind. And we were lucky enough to talk to an influencer without really, before influencing was a big thing. We found someone that fell in love with our product and then told me, Garrett, I love to talk about your product to my 1.3 million followers that received my email every single day. And so she decided she would talk about our product, and 1.3 million people got that email. Our website got 60 visits per second.
Wow.
For the entire couple of days, for the first day anyway. And it was tremendous. And we had hundreds and hundreds of orders online in addition to the stores those first couple of days. So much so that we were selling our product on Amazon, that our product ranking went from about 553,000 to a ranking of 57.
Awesome. Wow.
And it was because I attribute most of our success of getting out there in front of the population of the United States to her. Actually, her name was Lisa Lillian, also known as Hungry Girl. To this day, I sing her praises because she was amazing. She was fantastic. That she took a risk and said that about us. It was great.
And I think that's sticking with it, right? That's the blessing of sticking with it, because 7 years. That's not short. That's 7 years, and you started small from backyard, doing all this experimentation, buying equipment from an auction, not a brand new equipment, but an auction, and doing soft serve for a while, doing yogurt, soft serve ice cream, and then eventually listen to the customers and tell the customers telling you, giving you this idea, why don't you put them into packaging that you can distribute so I can bring it home.
Yeah.
So there's all this, just amazing wisdom from your experience. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know how to bring this down to a close because there's so many things that I still want to talk to you about. But I only have I said 40 minutes we're even past that already. But I want to close with a message from you on how the gospel, how your mission, the gospel has contributed to your entrepreneurship journey.
Oh, I love that. So like going back to my mission, for example, in Mexico, we would focus on changing lives from an eternal perspective, as opposed to a economic, one. And but granted, blessings flow. You're focused on eternal things. The other blessings typically follow. Sometimes it takes longer for others to see those financial blessings come through, but they do eventually come. And we just know that there's a timing in everything that we do. It's not our timetable; it's the Lord's timetable. And so for me, I always wanted to figure out a way that I could do something in Latin America to help raise up members of the church, for example, or in the case of leadership. There was a lot of bishops that were incredibly poor, trying to support their families and their children and serving 20 to 30 or more hours per week in their local congregation there in Mexico. And they're balancing so many things, as well as trying to raise children in the gospel, for example. It was just it was happy and sad at the same time. You're happy that they were so committed to the gospel to do good things, but sad that they were struggling so much to do those good things because they were trying to balance so much. And so I used to always think, I'm like, wow, what could be done here to kind of give everyone a step up a little bit? And one of the things that I noticed, there was a huge significant difference in pay, was the level of English that was spoken by the leader or by the individuals in Mexico. If they spoke English, their salaries and their income was usually 50 to 75% more than someone that didn't speak English. It was amazing. If they had a degree from a top college, their level of compensation was much higher as well. So it was just interesting to see that. And then in my travels to the Philippines, I noticed that everyone had amazing English. I'd say 95% of everyone in the Philippines has amazing English. But something that my business partner once told me, and I really liked, and I share it with folks, is he said, what's interesting, Garrett, talent is broadly distributed around the world, evenly, fairly, but opportunity is not. And so that was, one of those things where I was like, okay, how can we improve and create opportunities for members specifically? I'm not bashful about this, but 65% of our team are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And of that 65%, about 80% are return missionaries. And so my goal was, okay, they've sacrificed so much. How do we take them on a trajectory that goes up? And so that's what we focused on.
Yeah. So, I just hope that all of us will, be willing to take that burden of responsibility, if you can, if you can say that we're here to lift our brothers and sisters. So much is given, much is required, right? If you're blessed with circumstances, with opportunities, as you've said, talent is evenly distributed.
Yeah.
But once you are able to utilize all those talents, your circumstances, your opportunities, and direct that towards blessing many people so that they can access the same and be able to pay it forward as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a member of one. I mean, there's a few on our team. Like, I get verifications of employment from time to time, and I love it because it means that they're buying a car, they're buying a house for the first time. I love that. And there was a bishop that had that joined our team, and he used to always share the story that he used to take 2 buses to pick up investigators for church every single Sunday. And it would take him about 2 hours to go out and find the investigators, bring them to church on several buses. And he bought a car shortly after joining KJ. And what took him 2 hours now only took him about 20 minutes to do. And that, for me, that incredible time saving every single Sunday for all those years now going forward is significant. That means he gets to spend almost 2 extra hours a Sunday with his family, or magnifying his calling in a different way, where he's not stuck on buses trying to pick people up. And the independence that it gives him to do other things now, to lift individuals in the congregation or outside that he wasn't able to do before.
Incredible. I'm just, this is the third, we've had 3 conversations so far, and I hope we'll have more. And every time I have this conversation with you, you never fail to inspire me, Garrett. And I feel like I need to be a better person.
Doing amazing things, Philip. You do amazing things. No, you keep it up, man. You're doing great. I can learn from you.
Yeah. And I do hope that our listeners and viewers will be inspired as well to take on this challenge of entrepreneurship, being self-reliant. Employment can be a good start, like what you're offering, right? So you're offering great employment, but at the same time, you're not happy with just being, them being that. Your vision is even to create an entrepreneur out of them as well, so that they can do more good.
I have to be, I have to mention this. We have a posting that will go out for a particular job position, and 100 to 150 will apply for that position because they've heard about how it is to work within KJ. We're a big family. That's how I look at everyone on the team. And we only hire the top 3%. And so it's a very small number. But the other 97%, we don't say no to them directly. We will actually move them over to our other company. It's called Hire Mango. And where they can wait for a position with one of the clients at Hire Mango that's better than what they're doing. And it will give them some additional experience. They can also start working on their English more if their English isn't at the level that it needs to be. Maybe they need some more education or certifications to be at a better level. And then they can continue to reapply to KJ as much as they would like. And so that door is never closed to them. They can try again and try again. Just like the gospel, we fall down, we pick ourselves up. It's a progression. It's long-term. The word perfection I think it's Greek, basically means progression. So we don't have to be perfect and as we think 100% flawless. We just need to be on that road and progressing forward.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you for bringing so much hope to our listeners today. And again, thank you, Garrett. And thank you to all our listeners and viewers. Thank you, Randy, for helping out with the technical stuff today. So we'll see all of you in our next podcast. This video will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And most likely we'll have Garrett again in for future episodes. So thank you, Garrett, and say hi to your wife and to your KJ family.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.